Hello and welcome. Global banking giant HSBC has had a global services center in India for almost 2 decades now. What that means is that there are thousands of people who have acquired skills, knowledge, capabilities very specific to banking and finance, and helping really solve problems and perhaps do more deeper analytics and understanding of what customers want and will want in future. Now all this learning is going to lead somewhere, and we're trying to find out where it stands today and where it could lead. My guest is Paul Raddon, the Head of Operations for HSBC's Global Service Center in India. Paul, thank you very much for being
Absolute pleasure.
with us. So my first question is really that. So if you were to look at what you've built and acquired in all these years, multiplied by the number of people you have across so many centers, what does that mean?
I think first thing, I don't think I can actually do the multiplication. We have a great many people and a great many sets of skills inside our four walls. And that's really what it means. We have subject matter expertise, which is unsurpassed, to be quite honest. Where that leads to the point that you were making is it puts us in a unique position in our global service centres. We've recognised that the service centres are at the epicenter of everything that HSBC does. We are the single point where all roads cross. It doesn't matter what business line, what product, what region, what country. Everything comes to pass in some way, shape or form through our service centres, and that puts us in a unique position if we marry that with our subject matter expertise to drive back into the markets an awful lot of business insight understandings and primarily focus on customer journey and improving our customers' journey and their time with HSBC.
So can you give an example of what, let's say, would be the classic piece of work that would have been done 19 years ago and what's being done today, and which in turn would sort of reflect the transition and the journey that's...
I can tell you, I'll smile, and it'll be a smile of a little embarrassment. So if we take the mortgage journey, something banks are obviously very well recognised for and at the heart of our business for our retail customers. Our mortgage journey was long and could be painful. We launched only last week, or the week before, sorry, to correct myself, a revised mortgage journey for our Singapore customers, where they receive the offer letter for their mortgage, knowing that they can therefore acquire their property in under 5 minutes. That, for me, demonstrates exactly what our service centres bring to our organisation. We understand the mortgage journey, we understand the customer's pain, we are all customers of the organisation, and we're in a unique position to be able to make some quite substantial changes. The lovely thing about the way HSBC Group is engaging its service centres now is we are being allowed to drive that innovation and to look for technological solutions that allow us to get from X tens of days, I won't reveal how much it was, down to 5 minutes. That's a real evolution and revolution, I think.
Right, and so how is that 5 minutes being achieved? I mean, if you could break that down or break that up into, you know, the kind of skills that are at work or the technology that's at work.
So a lot of, it's not only technology, not wishing to correct you, but to allow me to tell the correct story. So a lot of collaboration. The markets in which the mortgages are sold are there to do exactly that. They are the ones that the customer gets to interact with. So an awful lot of collaboration between our service centres and our colleagues in the markets to understand what the pain points are, to work in a more collaborative way than has ever been done before, certainly inside HSBC, but speaking to colleagues here in the GCC world, they're feeling exactly the same kinds of challenges. And then to look at what technological solutions, what innovative solutions already exist within the marketplace, or from those that can be built within HSBC. So we're looking at things that have been applied elsewhere in our organisation and see if we can adapt, or we're looking at externally what exists to see if we can bring that in. Use of and greater understanding of our data, never asking our customers to do the same thing twice in this particular case. Understanding our know your customer processes, reusing that process, and understanding the value to a customer of having that offer letter in their hands faster. It not only gives customer pleasure, but it obviously drives HSBC to a better place in the markets that it operates in, selling those products.
Right, so banks, financial services institutions, big companies have all been on a digital journey in the last few years. So what has that digital journey meant for you, where you are and your vantage point and working with the mothership, so to speak?
my vantage point. So when you get to my vantage point, and I think I'm referred to as heritage inside HSBC now, having been around for so long, I'm not entirely sure I know what digital means anymore. It means so much to so many different people. HSBC has a mobile first approach, so that is something that we educate our staff to understand as a part of a digital journey. Asynchronous is something that we're very much driving as well, so a customer can interact with us at multiple points in their journey and their interaction with ours and understand where it was left off. So they're the kind of example of how we're driving that digitization of the customer's journey with us.
Right. So you've embarked on an interesting collaborative effort to work with accelerators to obviously try and find startups or and I'm sure find solutions in the fintech space which will help you and help your customers. So tell us about that journey so far.
It's been an interesting journey. So we entered into a collaboration, not wishing to overuse the word, where we set a challenge for startups to bring in what they saw solutions for the bank. But the challenge wasn't necessarily customer facing. It was how they could aid us in improving operations. And that yielded a couple of very interesting ideas, 6 specifically that we look to nurture. And we're bringing that technology and that innovation and that external thought into the way that we operate. Whilst we've got subject matter expertise on process and product and customer, I wouldn't proclaim that we in the GCC understand everything about technology. We have partners within the HSBC group that bring that to us, but external views as well help. And bringing that in to your reference to the journey has been a great advantage to us.
And do you see that building up, I mean accelerating the accelerator?
Accelerating the accelerator, yes, absolutely. And it does, it accelerates. That's one of the great things. But it accelerates for the reason that we're ready to allow it to. If you want my honest opinion, would we have been ready 4 or 5 years ago, considering the 20 odd years that we've been in India? No, we wouldn't. Technology's moved in those 4 or 5 years, absolutely. So I understand that conundrum in my answer. But we're now ready to accept that technology, embrace it and introduce it into what we have as a rather legacy-driven environment. And that's been our biggest advantage. That's one of the things that our staff were able to embrace.
Right. As you look forward, I mean, in some ways I go back to the question where I started, which is that, you know, you've accumulated all this knowledge and wealth of knowledge and expertise in banking and in transactions, dealing with customers, making them happy. What do you see the couple of big challenges in the next few years, and how will this now increasingly growing talent pool serve that?
One of the things that keeps me awake is reskilling. Reskilling for relevance was something that we were debating earlier, and I think that's probably one of our larger challenges, or the larger trend that we need to watch for. To be honest, it's not a challenge. It's something that we're mastering. It's something that we have an understanding of. It's the speed with which the technology is arriving to ensure that we're reskilling as it arrives is key. We've done some very interesting things inside the service centres in India, specifically with the mortgage team, to go back to them, where we've empowered them and trained them to build robotics or to introduce robots into their processes, which is something that helped us get the mortgage offer letter journey down to 5 minutes. And empowering them to do that, but skilling them, training them to be able to do that, not buying those services in, not buying that expertise in. Initially, yes, to get the groundswell, but then allowing them to drive that has been something that has allowed us to adapt and understand how to address and meet that challenge.
Right. And last question, I mean, when you look ahead, competition and competitiveness is also important between, let's say, centers in India and elsewhere, which you would oversee. How do you see that evolving? I mean, do you see migration? What does India need to do to retain its competitive advantage or build further on whatever has been invested so far?
So we're on a journey to create centres of expertise within our centres. So I wouldn't call it competition. I'd call it we're learning how to get our centres to complement each other rather than compete with each other. I'm all for competition. It drives pace, it drives innovation, and it drives an improvement to customer journey. but to allow us to work more cohesively, collaboratively, and complementary with each other is, I think, a better way to describe how we're operating rather than have compete.
Right, and last question. So what's the one thing that's you're looking at in terms of what your operations could be delivering or could deliver or should be delivering to your customers, and where your teams could play a more significant role?
At the risk of sounding a little cheesy, it's happiness to the customer. To have the customer want to return to us because their journey with us has been seamless, it's been faultless, and it's resulted in a state of happiness is exactly what we're getting the teams to start talking about.
Yeah.
And have the teams understand that they are responsible for driving that happiness and that improved customer journey.
Right, that's a happy note to end on. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.